Okay, welcome everybody to the August installment of our Policy Committee. We're going to start with some introductions, and we'll start with Emily over on my left side. Good morning.
Emily Bell with ASME Local 232.
Michelle Dunn with Cincinnati Teachers.
Michael Guston.
Dan Hoyt, General Counsel.
Shauna Murphy, Superintendent.
Kendra Mapp, board member, and I do apologize for my early departure today, but I want to make sure I get as much accomplished as possible.
Ben Lindy, board member.
Mary Weinberg, board member.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. If you haven't joined our policy committee either ever or in a while, we have a couple of standard alcohol waiver requests at the top of the meeting. We have a spot for carryover items from previous meetings, topics submitted by board members, and then we make a point to review every policy the board has at least once every 3 years. So we have some policies that will go through our standing review cycle. I know we're going to lose board member Mapp here about what time? About 10:30. And I think we're going to lose member Weinberg at a little before 11.
At 11.
At 11.
And we're going to hopefully.
So we're going to get this whole thing done before we lose our quorum and as close to board member Mapp's departure time as possible. Do we have anyone who wants to present on the Clark waiver request or the Hyde Park waiver request? Rob?
I haven't been told we have a few people online, but.
Yep. I got a text from one of those people who I know is here to present on Hyde Park. I wasn't sure, Kendra, is there anybody who needs to present on the Clark?
I can try to pull up the email. I don't know if anyone, okay.
These are pretty standard, and I don't know that we need to have a presentation unless board members have questions they'd like to ask.
I do not. If Dan could just share out the email from the treasurer from Clark.
Julie?
Julie Hammond?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna invite her.
Yeah, it's Andy Saylor.
H-A-M-M, you know?
Yeah.
And then we're looking, Andy Saylor, great. So maybe let's start with Clark, and if just board members have any, we'll hear from the council, and then if we have any questions, we can ask the representative.
Yeah, I don't know.
Julie, if you'd like to present, please accept the invite. If not, that's okay, just drop me a message.
On Clark?
Yes, sir.
The Clark
Thank you.
is for the Clark Montessori School Foundation. They are doing their annual fundraiser at Clark in November. I think they have sometimes done it off-site, but have an interest in bringing it on-site to Clark. Since the event will include alcohol, they are asking for a waiver for the event.
That's great. I certainly don't have any questions. These types of fundraisers and requests have been pretty standard, at least in my experience. But do board members have any questions for the representative from Clark?
No, and I think they shared a detailed email outlining a little bit more specifics about what their plans are to ensure that alcohol is served responsibly. So I think that I am good on any questions.
They're both also now we're panelists if you'd like to.
I don't have any
Mrs.
questions.
Weinberg, no
I'm
questions?
used to the alcohol waivers, so no questions needed.
Okay. While we're here, any questions about the Hyde Park annual fundraiser? This is their pumpkin chuck. I think they did the same thing last year.
I'm very aware of the pumpkin chuck.
I'm a regular
And-
attendee.
So no questions there. But I do appreciate our schools definitely following the process or the
Yeah,
procedure
this
and
doesn't
that's-
always happen. So like we have two
That's good.
schools here that are going through the motions ahead of time, in the right way, at the right place. And Andy and Julie, I appreciate both of you being here. I don't know that we have any questions.
Okay. Can you even hear me?
Yep. You
Okay.
sound great.
I am not used to any of this. I am just like a little old teacher that is not used to formally being on the spot. this is my first time actually going through this whole process. So there is a form that somebody has to sign.
Yep, we can take care of all that for you. The thing that needs to happen is that the committee here just needs to vote that we recommend it to the full
Okay.
board. Is that right, Dan?
That's right.
And then
on the-
who do I send it to?
Julie, that's the board will take care of the board approval. You'll also, if you're selling alcohol, you need to get a waiver from liquor permit from the state, and there's a place for us to sign. You can send that directly to me, the general
Okay.
counsel.
Awesome. Okay.
Yep, or through the board office, they can get it to me as well.
Okay.
Great. So I know you mentioned that this is your first time, Julie. We can start you off with a win, I think. So any objections to voting out of committee both of these waiver requests? No?
Objection.
Great. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
You're welcome to hang out for the rest of our meeting. You also don't have to. We're going to then pick up with item 3 here, which is continued discussions of new assignments.
Can I just
Oh, yes.
make a comment about that? So I do know that as it pertains to the alcohol waiver process, there's some language that may need to be updated within our policy in terms of recognizing that we don't have a partnership and engagement. I believe that's what it was titled, committee. So if we just could have that language updated at some point in time, so that, and let them know that it's the policy committee that would approve the waiver, just so it doesn't create any confusion for anyone that's trying to seek that process.
All right. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Dan. I think we'll turn it over to the administration around each of these next 3, starting with commemoration of school facilities.
Thank you. So this is a policy that's been in place since 2020. I think it's on the policy committee agenda because there's been some discussion at board meetings about the renaming or updating of school names. Among other things, we have junior highs now and middle schools, and trying to add those formally, or having the board approve some names for those to reflect the changes in their enrollment. The only thing I'll say is the naming of school facilities has always been a sort of board prerogative. The administration or schools or the community has made recommendations to the board, of course, but it's always been very much kind of the purview of the board. So, and I think the policy reflects that.
I agree 100%. I also feel like we had this conversation in this room a couple of months ago, right? I apologize, team, if I lost track of why this got back on the agenda here.
Yeah, so it happened, we were in a board meeting and one of our colleagues asked a question or just clarifying. And so we just basically said that the next time that we would have policy, that we would revisit it. And it was just nice to hear Dan restate again the procedure for this, and that the naming of the schools is the function of the Board of Education. Obviously, we do take into consideration the community. We take into consideration any names that the superintendent puts into place, but it is ultimately our decision and we vote on that as well. So it's just a clarifying, I think, topic, and that's why it was probably put onto this agenda.
Any additional follow-up needed?
I don't think there is. It says it right here, so I think I'm good. And hopefully our colleagues are going to be good with that as well.
I do have a question about this as we have transitioned to, having middle schools and junior highs, and I know that a lot of the schools are maybe reconsidering changing their name slightly, whether it is adding on a middle school or adding on that is a junior high school. I know that some schools have been trying to, kind of poll the students to get an idea. They've been trying to maybe poll the community. And so I'm looking at the policy where it says requests for naming school facilities shall include, under C, it has 3 different criteria. Is that, are we expecting all of these 3 with the written recommendation from the school's LSDMC, written recommendations from the community, and written recommendations from public-private partnerships? Are we expecting that all of these are to be followed, or is it one or the other? I'm just trying to get clarity around that particular section there.
So again, the policy was updated by the board in 2020. This section, section C, was added at that time. It certainly reads like it shall include all three. We have not always, the board has approved name changes without having necessarily all three, I think, so.
Okay, so I guess that will,
So we either need to be okay with this as it's written, or we need to decide we want it to be something different.
yeah.
So I guess is your question, well, I think I understand your question. I would recommend, in terms of after reading this, the request for naming school facilities shall include, I would think that we would want to have all of them because we'd want to have an insight from everyone. So I would recommend that we say that it needs to include all, because I think it's good that you have the school LSDMC giving their input, you have the community giving their input, and then any, public or private. I also think that students should be able to also give some input. So I'm not sure if we want to add within the school LSDMC, and then say something about students in there. But I do think it's important to have everyone's viewpoint, and not to say that we're going to have to take every single suggestion, but it's nice to have that suggestion to then be brought back to the board.
I agree with that. And so maybe this is, opportunity for us to decide on if we keep all three of these, and also, to your point, add the students, and maybe take it back to the full board for discussion around it. But I just wanted to make sure that it was clarity, and as you stated, Dan, that this process may not have always been followed. But so again, just to create that cohesion and that alignment as we're, reviewing the policy, how we would decide to move forward.
Yeah, that's great. This is not a topic on which I have a strong opinion. I'm very happy to support what Kendra, Mrs. Weinberg, what you all would like to do. Really is fine with me. So what is your recommendation, to make a change or to keep it the same?
I would the only change that I would recommend is what Ms. Weinberg suggested about adding the N students to C1, and then just taking it back to the full board to have, conversation around what their thoughts are, if we should keep it the same or make that slight adjustment there. But yeah, it's not, I don't think it's anything that's a major lift, but I
Great.
just think having the conversation.
So that's all right with you, Mrs. Weinberg?
That would be fine.
Great. Council, I give you what you need to move that forward? Yep. Great. Superintendent, I'm glad you're here. You've been working a lot on these schools. Does this fit with what you're thinking? Would you do anything differently?
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm full in agreement.
All right. So we'll move on to the next item under section 3, which is on use of district facilities and property.
And from council's office, my only note on this is to change what board member Mapp mentioned, which is to make sure it's updated to reflect that the Policy and Equity Committee is the group that alcohol waivers go to. I have no other notes on this policy.
I have no other notes either. So that's an easy one? Yeah. People feel good about that?
Great, Dan, I didn't know we were on the same page.
Here we go.
That's great. Okay, policy 0160, meetings, hearing of the public. I think this came from a question I asked at the end of our last meeting. I think I was just interested in whether we could learn some things about how other districts might handle when there should be offers of extended time. And I think that in a lot of cases, that makes a lot of sense. I can imagine groups, not instead of, but in addition to our teachers, like for example, parents, that maybe not always, maybe always, but it seemed like an interesting and important topic. And I thought a good place to start would be what other districts do about this, and would welcome any thoughts or ideas.
Yeah, so in looking at this, the other districts' policies and process for this pretty much resemble ours. Legally, the one thing I wanted to mention is that any restrictions on speech at in a public forum like this cannot be content specific. You can't say that one side gets to speak for a longer amount of time. and then have a viewpoint discrimination over somebody else who wants to speak for that same amount of time. So that's when there's cases brought in this area, that's frequently what is alleged, is that the public body has differentiated between viewpoints or the content of the speech. That's the only sort of limitation, I think, on the board's ability to change its policy here. You couldn't say, anyone who's speaking in favor of the district may have unlimited time, but anybody who's criticizing the district may only have 2 minutes. Or anyone pro, pick your topic.
If you want to criticize Dan Hoying, you
Yeah,
get
that's
no
right,
timing.
that's
But if
right.
you want to say how great Dan
That's
is, you can
right.
talk as long as you want. Got
That's
it.
right.
Got it.
So that's really the limitation that is most frequently litigated here.
Do we know anything about? And it's been a minute. I don't think this committee has met in some months, and so one of the questions I wanted to ask, I'll come back to. But Mrs. Weinberg, do you have a?
No, I just had a quick question, not a thought. But in terms of the time limit, I've always wondered, do we provide elected officials more additional time? So for example, if the mayor came to speak or if the state board person came to speak, do we allow for them to have additional time? Because I know in the past, we have done that. And I don't know, is that the proper procedure to follow? Is it written anywhere? And I would be curious, what do other school districts do in regards to that?
I think we've even been inconsistent about it. I can think sometimes we've done it, sometimes we haven't.
So
It's a great question.
maybe we should just have a, blanket, this is what we do.
The board has sometimes differentiated between what they've referred to as guest speakers.
Yes.
And hearing of the public.
But do we have that written in here? I don't think I've ever seen anything about guest speakers.
It's not written.
Okay.
I would agree that the policy's been, it's been implemented somewhat inconsistently. However, I would also say that is not what I would call a content or viewpoint specific
Right.
regulation on
Right.
speech.
It's just interesting. I think we have this tradition, and I'm saying that, I want to be really clear, I'm saying this descriptively. I'm not saying this evaluatively. But we do have a tradition here of the CFT president having unlimited time at the microphone. And when I first joined the board, I was told that's because it was a contractual obligation in the CFT contract. I don't know that that's actually true. Like, I've tried to look it up and I've tried to find it. I can't find anything in the contract that says there's unlimited time. I've found a
it is
piece
in
that
there.
says you can speak at any meeting. But wasn't able to find anything about an unlimited time limit. But it's a long contract. I will admit I have not read every single piece of it, and I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I saw something in there. I don't know the exact verbiage.
The language of the contract, which has not changed for many years, is in section 130 and provides during board meetings, the Federation president or designee shall have a seat and the right to speak at all board meetings of the Board of Education and its subcommittees. So that's the language.
And there's nothing in there about for less time, for more time, for the same time. Like the length question, I think, is unaddressed.
There's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, I'm not advocating that I don't want to cut anybody's time off. I also think there have been some meetings where it's felt uncomfortable to me to see some parents with very real concerns not have as long to speak. But I could also be a minority position on this. I think one question I have that I would welcome some additional research on, but I want to be thoughtful about how much capacity the council's office has. Like, I don't, do you have any interns maybe? Or
do.
You do? Great. This could be a great intern project. But just what do other districts do about this? Like, are there, is it the case that having one particular role get unlimited time in hearing of the public is quite common and done everywhere? Are we the only school district that does this? Have any districts had other creative solutions? I don't want content discrimination against anybody. And I'll say again, like, I'm not interested in cutting off people's time, but I do wonder if there are, or like we have multiple unions, like and we have one union that gets unlimited time. What about the others? Like, and again, I don't know. I'm still figuring out where I stand on this issue, but I would really welcome some perspective on what other districts do, and is there any wisdom that we could gain from that? Is that like a clear enough? I also like, you have other things you need your interns to do.
We can
Is that
do
a,
that for next meeting.
or for 2 meetings from now? Like, this is not urgent, at least not from my perspective. But that was why I wanted to put this on here. But I don't know if Mrs. Weinberg or Kendra, if you have any other.
I like that you're presenting this. I think as many voices that we can hear, I think is truly beneficial to help us do our work, with more insight and also with fidelity, right? Just having that level of engagement. I am curious to know, in terms of the parent representation, have you kind of thought about, are you expecting maybe each board meeting that there's a representative from maybe the PTO or the LSDMC speak per meeting, or you're just trying to get?
If I had something I was advocating for, I promise I would share it. You know,
Okay.
I think we're trying to figure
Figure out
out,
if
like,
it's-
is there a version that doesn't force anybody to speak less, but also creates an opportunity for other people who might currently have less of an opportunity to speak? And I don't know what that looks like, whether that's parents, other unions, taxpayers. Like, I don't, but like, how do you get a representative for those groups in the same way that you have a representative for a bargaining unit? It's complicated. Like, and it may be that if we talk about this at one more policy meeting, there's no good idea out there. We just keep the current system the way that it is. I'm genuinely open to that. Yeah. Did you have that?
I don't have something about this, but I wanted to ask a different question when we're done.
That's all I have on this one. Is it? Want to go ahead?
Yes, so can I suggest, so the time is 10:11, and I know that Board Member Mapp wanted to get to something. Can we possibly move up number 5 about the enrollment in neighborhood schools? Is that correct, Kendra, that you had some piecing on that discussion? Do you remember?
Move that up.
Yes, because I think.
I don't have any preference.
I think that there was a conversation piece about just having some questions about neighborhood schools and having to apply. So I wanted to make sure if you had any comments that you were able to give those comments before having to leave. So if we could possibly move that up?
Any objections? It's fine with me.
I don't know if that's a reminder.
No, I mean, you can give some background information.
Okay, I'll give the background and then, yes. So we can start now? Okay, yes, so we received an email from President Moffitt regarding just in regards to enrollment in neighborhood schools, and there was a question, I think, wanting to make sure that the language was correct, and it mentions a policy about families who choose a neighborhood school having to apply each year, and just making sure that in our policy that is either correct or it's being followed, or I'm not even quite sure if that is the correct answer. And so I know Board Member Mapp, I don't know if you remember with that, just jogging, I think there was some insight that you wanted to add to that as well, to get clarification.
Okay, yes, so from my recollection of that, and this would be something that Superintendent Murphy as well as Stan would have to give feedback on, but in terms of having to re-enroll every year in a neighborhood school, from my understanding, the students would just maintain throughout, their matriculation without having to re-enroll. My only knowledge about students having to re-enroll or reapply for a seat is if they were out of district.
There was a piece at one point, I'm sorry, I didn't know that question ahead of time, about being even out of neighborhood. So my neighborhood school is Bond Hill. I go to Roselawn. At one point, you were allowed to do that, if there were seats available. At one point, you were supposed to reapply every year. I don't know that that's still necessarily the case. So I would need to be able to follow up on that to let you know if that was accurate or not.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful, 'cause I'm just thinking about a personal experience for my own child. I know when she was transitioning from kindergarten to first grade, I actually made the mistake of re-enrolling her in school, and what happened is it kicked her out of the system and put her in a different school. And so I know customer care service was like, no, you don't have to reapply. And so just wanted to make sure, and just going back into the policy, like I said, the only reference that I seen to having to reapply each year was if you were a student that was out of the district, because obviously you wanted to make sure that there were enough seats available for those students that are currently in the district.
Absolutely. If that's your neighborhood school, there's no reason to reapply. No need to reapply. No.
And so I get that for the neighborhood school. And so what I'm hearing you say is if it's not your neighborhood school, it's possible that you would have to reapply. I will have to go back and look at the policy for that as well, because I'm not familiar with that language being there. I think I only recall seeing if you were out of district.
I can get something about that today. We used to have an out-of-neighborhood lottery. I don't think we do that anymore at all, but let me follow up. I'll have it today.
And that would have been my question too, because I do have the policy pulled up, and I just wanted to make sure that as we're reading it, and that it does state exactly what it's supposed to state. And I see that there's a red line where it says through a computerized lottery process, but then that's taken out to now say the selection process in which and then it has 4 requirements. So yeah, if we could just review that, making sure that what superintendent is stating is actually the case here written down in the policy.
And just to that point, just for my own personal edification, can you explain the difference between the computerized lottery and now this transition that we have started with the selection process? I know we have banners and, that's posted to say select your school. Can you just speak to that transition that we have recently embarked on?
2 things. One, of course, we have fewer magnet schools, and so less of a need for that lottery process. And so we're trying to ease the what some may have considered a burden with that process and the wait and the not knowing. And so we've eliminated that over the past year to move to something that is allowing families to select what school they want. There are some exceptions. Fairview is still, for example, a district-wide magnet, AWL, AMI, we still have some, but for the most part, we've eliminated the majority of the magnets we've had over the years. And even though you may remember, some had been eliminated in previous years, but still carried the benefit of being a magnet school. So we wanted to change the language so we could signal we're not doing that lottery process as we had in the past.
Okay, and so with the select, your school is still select your first, second, and third
Yes, ma'am.
priority?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and based upon the seats that are available, that's kind of what your options will be?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Go ahead, Dan, sorry. I'm sitting here raising my hand like it's mine, so thank you.
The only thing I was gonna add is the move to centralized enrollment as we go through that is gonna really improve our ability to make sure that the board's policies are followed. Trying to make sure that they're followed in 60 different school sites all around the district. I mean, we've done it, don't get me wrong, and certainly, we've advised schools on what the board's policies are, but it will vastly improve our ability to make sure that the priorities that the board has set for enrolling students are followed.
Last question, since you brought up the centralized enrollment and we are, we've obviously made some adjustments. This doesn't necessarily pertain to policy, but just a question around enrollment. Since we have streamlined this process, can you speak to what our plan will be to make sure that it is, more efficient? Obviously, this is something new, so I know we're working out, different kinks, but to ensure that our students are able and families are able to be enrolled, so that it isn't a deterrent, right? If there is maybe a waiting process. Kind of what was the thinking around that?
I think the biggest waiting process gap that we have is if a student comes in and has a disability that would, where they would need to be assigned to a unit in the district, and making sure we have the proper documentation to get the child in the right place to be successful. Sometimes that is a barrier and can take longer than we would like it to take, because we want to make sure they're in their least restrictive environment and that we're not violating any of their IEP rights. That probably sometimes takes the longest. So we built in that it's more than customer care. They're not able to review an IEP the way a professional in special education could do it. And so we work with our Department of Student Services to do that and to find them appropriate placement. Other than that, other than maybe there's missing paperwork, a parent hasn't brought the proper documentation in terms of lease or birth certificate or custody, there should not be a delay to enrollment.
Okay, thank you for that.
This is a great conversation, and I'm glad we pulled this up, so thank you. Couple clarifying questions on my end. So the policy here is about neighborhood elementary schools. It does not say magnet. So if we rewind the clock a decade or so, there's a big deal about switching some of the schools that had been enrolled by campout to enrolled by lottery. This wouldn't affect any of that because that was a magnet context, and this is a neighborhood context. So like if are we still, we're still, what I'm trying to figure out is, can we say there is still a lottery enrollment for magnet schools? We use Fairview as an example, like this was the highest publicity one.
That's fair to say, to be clear, that's fair to say, because there are only so many seats at so many grade levels in AWL, for example, in Fairview, for example.
And I think, by the way, just one board member's perspective, I think that's a good thing. Like lotteries they may be administratively challenging, they're also fair. You were saying?
Yeah,
Dan?
I mean, to the extent your question is, are we going back to a first in, first out? Absolutely not. There is no campouts, there is nothing
Yeah.
like that. I think there is some pushback about the mechanical language of using a computerized lottery. When families come into customer care, we do everything we can to try to get them into the school that they want for their children. There are occasionally times when we have more parents wanting that school than we have vacant seats. And in that case, we use a lottery. But there is some pushback about the use of like lottery as opposed to selection process that uses these priorities.
Well, this goes to my next question,
Yeah.
which was, let's say that you have one seat left and two families show up who meet the same criteria on that list, and they both want that last spot. Does our policy say anything about how that decision gets made?
There is a piece in the policy that talks about sibling, programming, et cetera. There's, I think, maybe 3 or 4 categories that are considered in terms of priority for that individual student.
I understand, but like, let's create a hypothetical where they check the same boxes. Two different families, both kids would like the last spot. Is it the first one who shows up gets it? Is it the one with the best relationship with the principal gets it? Is it a coin flip who gets it? Like, does our policy not say anything about which of those scenarios resolves
Well,
that situation?
It's not the principal in this case at this time, because the principal's not involved in the process at that point. It's ITM and customer care, essentially. So I don't know that we've run into that, so it's hard for me to say definitively this is what happens.
I do have a quick
Yeah.
question. Is it not randomly done? I thought with random. So if you do have the two families, wouldn't the names be removed, or I guess that's a good question because I never thought about that.
Because I think what
how does
we're
that work?
like my hypothesis. First of all, I can't size how big a deal this is, right? Like this may never ever ever happen because it's so rare that you wind up in this situation. But I think my hypothesis is the policy as it's recommended here is silent on this issue, and that would leave it open. And like what I'm looking for, I think, is a way to shrink the size of the administrative difficulties. Like I'm empathic to that. I think it makes sense, but also to somehow get some language in there that we want this thing to be fair. And I think there's probably a way to do that. But that's what I was thinking about.
Can I just add, my understanding, again, if families have registered, they are the exact same priority. They've registered during the magnet.
Not magnet.
No, I'm talking about magnet enrollment, during the magnet enrollment window, and there's more applicants than there are spaces. I do believe we still do a computerized selection for those families. What I think we missed when we did these policies initially is there are lots of families who apply for schools and come into the district throughout the year. You know, the magnet lottery is open, the first week of school has started, someone has just moved to the city, they've heard that you know, Fairview is the best school in the city and they would like their kids enrolled. If we have space and are able to do that, we're gonna try to get them in. So that's what I think is sometimes missed in our policies is, yes, that these priorities are followed, there is a random selection if there's more kids during the window than there are spaces, but there's a lot of enrollments that happen outside of those windows.
So that makes a lot of sense, and I do have a suggestion then. I would offer this to my colleagues and see what you think. Like maybe we say the administration's put a lot of thought into this. They're more of experts in this than I certainly know I am, and willing to give this a try. I'm wondering if we could include something in there about producing some kind of annual report to the board about concerns that parents have raised with this process, to the extent there have been any, and what recommendations the administration would have to improve it. I'm just I think you make a great argument that this could be the right way to go. And I also worry a little bit about the absence of some lottery-ish process. But if it's working and everybody loves it and there are no concerns about it, let's not make it more complicated.
Right, and I would agree with that. I know last year we did hear some complaints, and I think they were able to be fixed, but it would be nice to kind of hear about the process, to see those who are actually going through with it, you know, what are some of the pros or cons or whatever, to then be reported back to the board. And hopefully they're all good things that you can tell us and give us, but that's not a bad idea.
What do you think? I'm looking at the superintendent and the
Yeah,
council, because I don't want to suggest something that's dumb, and I'm often wrong.
No, we'll definitely dig in and give you some feedback. Yeah, I will have a conversation with Tony Fields and kind of get a sense of what some of the pros and cons have been this year.
And can you remind me of the dates? Would that be, what are the application dates for that?
So we moved up the window. There's a few different windows that we've had last year. I can send you those dates. I probably can pull it up pretty quickly. But you know, there's a high school process,
Right.
there's a magnet process, there's a sibling process. I think
Okay.
there's like 3 different.
But aren't they a little bit
windows.
later on?
We moved them up this past school year for 25, 26. You give me a minute, I'll look them up.
That's okay. I just wanted to kind of see if there was any information from the last one, you know, that you could possibly get, but it's okay. I'm good.
I will say, I think if we go back for just 1 second, I think what you were describing, Superintendent, is it might be, I can't quite tell, slightly different from what I was thinking. I don't have a need for you all to go back and gather information about the past year at all. If other board members would like it, great, but I certainly don't need it. I think my thought would be, can we add a line in here? We could do it now, and we could still have it come through at the next available board meeting. That's just like once a year, the administration will report to the board or the policy committee about how this process has worked over the past year, whether there have been any complaints and any recommended changes. Here's the scenario I'm worried about. Like a school that is in high demand has families who are trying to get into it from out of that neighborhood. And this feels like a very thoughtful process, but the one that's going to be rolling. And like they'll just keep running this as parents show up until they run out of spots. And what'll happen is one family that did not get in will hear about another family that did get in, and they will say, well, what do you mean? Like we have the same kids and we're similarly situated, like or like they actually had a better criteria than the other one who's admitted, but now there are no spots left, you know? And I don't know that that's going to happen, and I don't want to hold you all up with a remote possibility. But having something in here that says once a year, we're going to look at how it's working and should we make any changes in the future, feels like it's a good safeguard. But I'm very open to feedback.
I understand.
And Board Member Lindy, were you asking for that to be added to? Which one?
This was the one about
The eligibility,
So policy, which policy?
or excuse me, enrollment in neighborhood schools?
yeah, the 30, this is 5120.
Yeah.
Okay, 51, thank you.
And so just for clarity for the administration, you will also go back and look at what the policy states about students having to
Yes.
reapply? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Dan, am I,
The dates
Dan,
for,
pull the
yeah,
dates.
the CPS Magnet and high school application opens this year on November 1, 2025, and closes February 28, 2026.
am I doing something that doesn't make any sense? Or like is silly for some, I have not thought about this deeply.
No?
No, okay, okay. All right, okay, thank you for being here when you can. Good luck, and we'll take you as long as we can keep you.
Okay, can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Just for overview, can you, I know that the conversation will be about the high schools of choice. Can you give a preview, Superintendent or Jan, about what this policy, what we're recommending with this policy?
Mostly it's just updates, so,
Okay.
for example, I don't think we have any Paideia high schools anymore, so that was removed. Just added that we do have career technical education high schools, we have TAP technology, we have dual enrollment programs, so nothing, just updating what to reflect what our current offerings are. I think the language used with respect to admission to, for example, Walnut Hill, schools with a restricted admission, the language says that the student has to pass the test in the current version. What we offer as a more accurate language would be to meet the minimum test requirements. Because, you're taking sort of, these tests don't necessarily, at least in my understanding, have a pass-fail. There is a score that is selected for the school and they have to meet that minimum requirement. It's not a pass-fail kind of situation. It's my understanding. Did I say that correctly? Yeah. The SCPA language was updated to reflect work that we did with the Ohio Department of Education to ensure that our policy reflected kind of the latest and most up-to-date guidance from the US and Ohio Department of Education, ensuring that students are not discriminated against in admissions. So that reflects the work we did with them last year. I think that's most of what we're proposing for that policy.
Thank you. In terms of the Walnut Hills assessment, and it could be generally stated, I'm fine with that, but I know that there was, it was brought to the board in terms of the actual assessment, whether it would be the Iowa or the iReady. Do you think it's best to list what assessment or just to keep it at a general broad level of meeting the minimum requirements?
I do like the latter better, because what if it's the pleasure of the board to make an adjustment?
as you're headed out, Board Member Matt, we can, later on, there's I think a piece in here about LSTMC policy. I'm happy for us to start that conversation.
That's fine.
We may also want to keep some of it on the dock for next month.
I think so.
Would that be, so
do
we'll
that.
start, but
Yeah.
then finish?
Yeah,
Okay,
I would agree on that one.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are done with section 3, moving on to section 4, which is topics submitted by board members. The first one came from Dr. Moffett, and I am looking at an email from her about this. But I don't know, I'm not sure I fully understand what she was hoping our committee would do with respect to immigration policies. Someone else may know.
I am not sure. Was there an email you said that was sent?
I asked Phyllis to follow up with her to see if she still wanted it. Phyllis did that. And Kareem replied back that yes, she did, but then went on to talk about LSDMC policy and neighborhood school choice. But
Do we want to follow
don't
back
know
up with
about
that one then?
why.
For the-
Yeah,
for
we
the
can
next
certainly keep it
meeting?
on.
Yes, I would
And I'm
suggest
happy to
that.
talk. Do you have
I don't
visibility
know,
into?
Dr. Moffitt's interest, while the topic's brought up, I thought I'd mention two pieces of legislation that are pending in Ohio related to immigration, which I think the board and probably the public should know about. HB 42 would require schools to collect immigration information on students. This would really
Yikes.
be a
Really?
deviation,
No,
yes.
really?
It would be a deviation from what we do. We do not collect
Right.
information on students. No other state requires public schools to collect information about immigration status from students, and potentially is a violation of the Supreme Court precedent in Plyler v. Doe.
What is this
I
House
was gonna.
bill?
You're
Pending in the
Yeah.
House Government Oversight Committee, there's been only proponent testimony. There is no one that has spoken up to oppose this bill. It was last heard on May 25th. So
And what's the House bill number?
HB 42.
HB 42?
if we want to line up testimony against it, I'd like to volunteer to
That's what I was
speak,
gonna say.
or for somebody from CPS to go. Not that they'll listen to us.
And Dan, have you gotten information that our adult ed program has been given a directive?
So the adult ed program already is being subject to. I just wanted to mention also, and the superintendent brought it up, the adult ed program, which is our ABLE. Is that the old name? Aspire, I'm sorry, I always forget which is it. Is already required to ask its adult students for immigration status as a condition of their funding, because the protections in like the Supreme Court case don't apply to adult students. So they have already been asked that for that information.
Yeah. I have a thought on this, but then I just want to make sure I didn't mess something up. Like, I think the request here from Dr. Moffett was around transgender student protections. Is that what I brought up? Did I say immigration the first time?
No, no.
They're both on here.
Yeah, you said that, but then we said we didn't have anything, and we were gonna follow back up on that. And then Dan said he did have some things that he wanted to introduce. So I think we're done with the transgender piece because we weren't sure what her request was.
You know what? I've got a different, the printed agenda here, I think is a little different.
I don't see it on there, but I have the regular.
Under 4, there's 2 bullets. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
You're
it's-
right. No, I had immigration on here at a previous one too.
That's okay. I'm so glad we're talking about
Yeah.
this.
Right.
I just
I
wanted to
don't
make
have it
sure I
on
hadn't
mine, but-
mischaracterized what was on here. So, but nothing on transgender at the
Yeah.
moment.
No,
Okay.
the policy was passed this summer. It's active. We've gotten lots of questions about it. We're continuing to train on it.
Okay.
But we'll come back to it because I don't know what President Moffett needed or clarification. So I
Yeah.
think that we should put that
That's
onto the next.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And I think to go back to the immigration thing, I'm so glad we're talking about it. In addition to like wanting to volunteer on the testimony piece, like this is one of those things where if we have a constitutional argument that state statute is unconstitutional, I would love CPS to be at the front of the charge trying to challenge that, And so like I don't know if we can watch. Like you all have a lot to do, and I don't want to gear up for a fight if the bill's not going to go anywhere. But like if it looks like it's going to pass, I would love for us to be the district that challenges this in court first. And anything I can do to, I don't know what kind of resources or pro bono allies whatever it is. Like if we could maybe at a future date hear from you all how we could help position CPS. Sorry, I speak as though everybody agrees with me. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I was going to suggest, Dan, if you could possibly email the information to the full board so that we're also aware. It's great that you're bringing it here to policy, but I do think that our colleagues would definitely want to hear about this and would like to know what can we do moving forward to advocate on them not doing this. So definitely giving us that information.
We had a win where we were one of 2 school districts, I think, in the country that sued the Trump administration around this title fund withholding piece, and I don't know that the president decided to release the funds because of our lawsuit. I'm still really glad we did it, and that doesn't mean we're going to win every time. But, I do not feel like we need to just sit here and absorb the unconstitutional decisions that come, whether from Columbus or from DC. And so if there's a way we can, fight back on this, I think that'd be great.
There's actually a second piece of legislation, also Senate Bill 172 would prohibit state and local officials from interfering in any way with the arrest of immigrant. This is by local officials. It expressly includes schools, can't obstruct or interfere. It's still subject to the constitutional protection, so I think there's some argument there. I think one of the biggest pieces of this legislation is that a state or local entity cannot prohibit any person from inquiring or sharing information out about an immigrant student status. And, you know, that's probably comes into conflict with FERPA and other state student protections. So if we direct, as we have, our school staff that they may not share student information that this seems to come in conflict. So again, just a second piece of legislation that's currently pending that relates, that would have a negative impact on our immigrant and refugee families. And I'm glad to share a note about both pieces of legislation to the full board. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Okay, so we have covered everything in items 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think.
Well, we have one thing. So
sorry,
in
yes.
4, regarding the LSDMC, I do know that Dr. Moffitt wanted to have a discussion, and we probably could table this for our next meeting regarding the language around the interim principal and principal selection, and with our administration needing to provide a timeline based on the engagement policy. So we could talk about that next time? Do you want to table that or continue to kind of have a brief conversation?
I have more time than the other board members today, so like I'm happy to start it now. I'm happy to come back to it next time. I think it's whatever you'd prefer.
I would like to have Board Member Mapp here as well, so that is something that I would like to table. I know that she did have some, not concerns, but wanted to provide some input onto this as well.
Great. Is there anything, administration, you needed from us more quickly?
No, sir. But I will just share based on previous conversations around this and principal selection process, we are moving forward with our current direction given to us by the board for the 2 schools in particular. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
I don't have any questions. I think it was just making sure that the policy stated that information and everybody was aware and understood it. And we can table it to provide more input from the other board members as well for the next meeting.
Okay. So now we have finished items 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think we're into the last section of number 5, and excited to hear about our standing policy review cycle.
Sure. So might make sense to do both finance policies. So policy 3440 and 6520, and pleased to be here with our incoming treasurer, Mike Gustin. Mike, do you want to introduce these, or I'm happy to also?
Sure, I can go over them. I would start with 6520. It's pretty much, this one's just some cleanup of existing language, so nothing super controversial there. We added some things to the list of payroll deductions. Most or all of which we've been doing for quite some time, just kind of making policy match. And then we put some language in discussing how new tax shelter annuity vendors could get into working with the district. The old procedure has been a barrier to bringing new folks in, quite frankly. And quite frankly, we want to work a little more closely with the benefits committee, which has representation from all the union leaders, and give them a little more, I guess, say in how those vendors are selected and retained. That one I don't think that's pretty much what it is.
Non-controversial.
So if you're ready, I'll go to 3440.
Do you have any questions about
I don't.
6520?
I don't.
Okay.
You want to move that forward?
Yeah, just say so on the first page, the like adding school district income tax, background check fees. This is in this category of stuff that your department has been doing for some time. We're bringing policy in line to make sure it reflects that.
Yeah, school district income tax we're required to withhold if someone has. We're legally required to withhold that one. Background check fees we offered to the employees, and so if they don't want to bring money, they can just have their background check fee paid out of their, taken out of the next paycheck. And then the payroll overpayments is another thing that we are required to do by law to satisfy the state auditor. So if someone gets overpaid, we take it back in the next check, or we spread it out over a series of checks.
Okay. And then on the ERISA stuff in the second part, can this felt a little bit more substantive, but I don't, this is not an area I know a ton about. Can you just say a little bit more?
Yeah, so we have a number of tax shelter annuity vendors that are out there, and we've had them for years. The barrier to someone new coming in is you need to have basically 20 employees signed up.
20 CPS employees?
Yes, but you get into this weird catch-22 where like you have to go get people to sign up ahead of time.
But they can't sign up unless they're approved, right? Or no?
Sort of like intent to sign is a better way to look at it. Yes, this is why it's rarely used. And I know being on the benefits committee, we've had several requests to bring new vendors on. Some of them are very ones we've all heard of. And this tends to be a barrier. So we wanted to allow the old process to run if that happens, but also give the benefits committee the ability to bring on new vendors, which is the same thing they do with wellness, the same thing they do with medical and dental plans.
And just who's on the benefits committee again? Not people, but like what positions make up the?
So there's one rep from every union, plus the district's benefits manager, the treasurer, representative, legal counsel. I think that's it from administration, is that right?
I mean, there's others who sometimes come. It's
Yeah.
not a closed door meeting.
But that sounds like the right group of people you'd want to make
Right.
these decisions. I mean, that's got a lot of good. That's great. Yeah, this sounds like it's a very good thing to me.
It is definitely the stakeholders in the district's benefits.
These are all voluntary contributions. This is not one of the district's paid benefit plans. This is if you want part of your payroll to go into a 40 or 403B.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is great.
Trying to get the right mix of vendors that.
But we also don't want to have a million vendors.
Right.
Right.
We get approached about this all the
Well,
time.
that's
have a
partly
list,
too, like
but-
we get approached, or I get approached by people who are trying to get with whatever, and I'm not an expert. I don't know. Like, I think what I was trying to make sure is that there's the right group of people looking at this and making thoughtful decisions who know more about it than I do. And I think that sounds like that's what this is.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Thank you.
So then the other policy we're looking at is 3440, which is job-related expenses.
I have a copy of the ethics.
Thank you. Dan's handing out a copy. So this is quite a surprise actually to us.
Off the press.
Yeah, hot off the press.
Is this something different?
It's a copy
Oh.
of the new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the Ohio Ethics Commission recently released an opinion about hotel and travel rewards. And so just for historical perspective, in our policy and procedures, we have always strictly prohibited employees from getting any travel or hotel rewards, even including, using your Kroger Plus card if you're buying food for a school event. That was based on previous guidance from the Ohio Ethics Commission that was enforced by, the auditor of state in our annual audits. So, and yes, we have had times where we've ended up paying more money for things because you couldn't use your Kroger Plus card.
It's truly one of the most ridiculous rules that came out of the Ohio Ethics Commission.
And there are a number.
Yeah, yes, there are. But this would be really examples of people not being able to use, to pay less for gas, using your Kroger Plus card, 3 cents off a gallon, and having to charge the district more because otherwise you will get a reward back on your Kroger Plus card.
I don't know how many principals have come to me and said, look, I'm buying bottled water for a parent engagement event. And it's $4 for a case. It's $3 for my Kroger Plus card, but I'm paying an extra, it's just.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Truly makes no
ridiculous.
sense.
So this is a welcome change from the Ohio Ethics Commission for sure. So we are happy about this change. Obviously, if our policy is more restrictive, our policy would apply there. So we're asking to go back and revise policy 3440. There are a couple of caveats. So obviously, number one, any rewards have to be the same as you would earn as a member of the general public. So it can't be special, it can't be a special type of reward, but all of your normal clubs, your Sky Miles, your Hotel Points, your Kroger Plus, those are normal. And then obviously you have to use, the same district procurement thing. So generally that means lowest cost vendor. So you can't decide, hey, I have Sky Miles, I'm gonna book a flight with Delta that's $300 more than American Airlines. Yeah, and we'll enforce that through procedure. Every travel request is reviewed to look for those sort of things. And then the third one that's kind of a caveat is you can't bundle. So like if Dan, Sean, and I were all going to a conference, they can't be like, hey, I'll put all the tickets on my thing and I'll use the points. So everyone has to get their own points. But I think all of those are easily implementable and easily enforceable through our current procedures.
It's only amazing that it took them 25 years to undo this policy.
Mrs. Weinberg, any questions?
No.
This is great, thank you. I never would have thought of the bundling thing either. I was like, oh, that's clever, and we shouldn't do that. And it's in the, that's great, thank you. Okay, great. So moving right along. So we can, I think these are non-controversial enough that we can put them in the consent agenda, absent objection.
I think
Great.
that would be fine.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Dan, what else we got?
The rest are, I believe, from our regular review of policies. They were on last month. Actually, the superintendent has looked at these as well and made some recommendations. The first is from, let's see, 5111 is the eligibility of resident, non-resident students. Most of this comes straight out of the Ohio Revised Code, almost verbatim. We updated some of the language relating to the grandparent power of attorney or caretaker affidavit. I'll just say a quick word about that. That's one of the unique things about enrolling students in Ohio is Ohio actually has a terrific rule that says grandparents uniquely have the ability to enroll their grandchildren if something's going on with the child's parent, their son or daughter. And so wanted to make sure that was really clear, but we have lots of grandparents who have and will continue to enroll their kids in school. Everything else, there's a new rule we added related to you have the ability to enroll if you're in active duty of the armed forces and you're stationed in Ohio. We have several military bases, not necessarily in Cincinnati, so but it's a requirement to have that in the policy. Those are the only changes, again, very related directly to the Ohio Revised Code. Welcome any questions.
This is, makes sense to me, Mrs. Weinberg.
I don't have any questions. Very.
So we can put this through also?
Move forward to consent. And then the last two are I believe the policies we've briefly talked about, 5113.03 relating to high schools of choice. Talked about some of the changes we made there. Superintendent and I are glad to answer any questions about that.
The high schools of, or Mrs. Weinberg, any
Yep,
questions?
this is high school enrollment, so we talked about making sure it matches our current array of schools, updating the language about Walnut Hills, updating the language about a CPA, and then we actually removed the selective admissions, I think, at Dater High School, which I don't think we've done for some time. Long time. So just updating to mostly reflect current practice. Glad to answer any questions on that.
Any questions you have?
I don't have any questions from reading this. It's very clear.
Okay.
Good job, Dan. Good gravy.
You helped a lot on that one. And then the last is I'm sorry, were there any questions? On
No,
that?
just from like a process standpoint, the two finance ones will go forward. Not resident, non-resident will go forward. High schools of choice will go forward. In the enrollment in neighborhood schools, do you all feel like you feel good about a sentence you want to add now? We can put it through. Do you want to wait a month? We can look at it later. I think
So
from,
Mr. Fields, I texted him after you asked me about the, well, actually it was board member Mapp who asked about the neighborhood enrollment. And he says, we have not asked students who have been accepted already in the district to reapply each year if they're staying at the same school. If they are switching schools due to grade level or moving, then they apply. The only time it comes up is if there's an issue sometimes. So at one point, we did have an out-of-neighborhood enrollment practice procedure. We had a whole period of time in the lottery process where that took place. None of that's happening anymore. So for her personal question, there's no need to reapply in any selection or lottery process at all if you're in a school. And if you're out of neighborhood, it seems we're not asking people to do that either.
Is it, I have a question, I'm sorry. Is it stated in our policy? I think that was her question too, just making sure that that was stated and it was clear. So as I'm opening this up to read, I'm sorry.
I don't think it's explicitly stated in the policy. If it matters, I think this was more of practice and a part of how we used to do lottery. All of that, as far as process and procedure, has been updated on our website, and we're not doing it any longer. So if you want a line in the policy,
Is it possible to wait on that one? Would be my suggestion. Just to make sure that we had clear understanding of what else needed to be added from board member Mapp's perspective.
that's fine with me.
Absolutely.
That's great. And then I think the piece I was asking about was this once a year, looking to see how things have gone and making any recommendations for improvements for concerns about fairness and even treatment. And I was just trying to say, I'm happy either to move it forward now if you feel that's doable, or to come back to it a month from now. I think that's now moot because we're going to come back to it a month from now anyway, so that board member Mapp can ask anything she wants to ask.
Absolutely.
Could it come with that sentence?
Yep.
Next time? That'd
Yep.
be great. Okay, so I think that is it for section 5, unless I'm
Yes.
missing something.
I think you're good.
Rob, would you give some instructions on hearing of the public?
Okay.
We command a large audience here at the policy committee. We've scared them all away. Okay, anybody in the room like to share anything for hearing of the public today? Hearing nothing? You're always welcome.
I guess, can I just say one thing?
Anything you'd like.
Is your mic on? Oh.
It just struck me, Michelle with CFD, it just struck me as we were discussing state policy, that I feel that our district lobbyists maybe should be providing some information, for example, on HB 42. I have seen community level discussions about grave concern about the district being required to report immigration status of our students. This is definitely a topic that is very hot in our community among stakeholder groups. And I just, it's just a rhetorical question perhaps, that I feel like our lobbyists could maybe do a better job informing our board and leadership of pending policy that impacts our students. Thank you.
Thank you. I also just, this is for my own clarity too. Have there been some changes to our lobbyists?
Well,
Been many budget cuts this year.
Yeah, I was right to say, like, I think we might be currently, we're without one now?
Yes.
Is that
Well, not today, but as of Monday.
as of
So
Monday?
we have Dan.
And that, and I think, you know, like, there are lots of things we wish we could invest in, and I think this is one of them. But we got to have another plan to make sure, and so thank you for, I think, alerting us about this. And I just think the point's really well taken.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't have any other business. Does anyone else have any other business?
I just have one small thing to say. So I just wanted to welcome our wonderful treasurer. This is your first day, first meeting, right? As a full treasurer, I would say, you know, since,
September.
well, but we
This is the
didn't,
last day in the old.
but we didn't have a, you know, committee meeting or anything. We just had our board meeting. So, yeah. So you're all in. You're all in. Solo. Okay.
Yeah, welcome, Mike. Yeah, glad you're here. Okay.